You know how much I love just seeing howdy coming from everybody from like across the world in the chat. It makes me happy. Well,
yeah, it's pretty cool. Isn't it? From Sweden and
from London, from Sweden, we'll get Portugal and Australia here in a little bit. We got everybody.
Well, we got everybody.
Howdy. Welcome back to Sci Trek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. I believe we got a lot of cool stuff for you today. How are y'all?
Doing well.
We got. I spent the last 3 days just running around everybody that I can think of, particularly with the Stargate stuff we're going to talk about, to try and get some sort of corroboration on it. And I've actually been able to get quite a lot. So I'm really quite. This started off as me as like, that's interesting. So now I'm like, oh crap, this is going to happen. So let's see.
Konnichiwa.
Ogasai gozaimasu. Oh, I can't remember how to say good morning. Damn it. Never mind.
Think you chilling?
Hey,
we said it looked like the Beetlejuice thing. Jamie had that idea earlier. It looked great. I love it. But okay, before we jump into all the crazy news, just because I know you have a timeline that you got a good roast coming out at 6:30. What did you watch this week, Jamie, before we dive into all the greatness?
The one thing I did want to have a little bit of a chat about is because I got to see Star Wars: A New Hope at the cinema. Now, it was the digital redoing that they did that me and Stormy just realised was over 20 years ago. It's just, it's just crazy. Jay, were you making YouTube videos 20 years ago saying reptilians are real? No?
5 years ago, maybe.
I was about 5 years ago, but I never said reptilians are real because they're not. So, but anyway, I used to do a conspiracy channel. But anyway, I watched Star Wars: A New Hope at the cinema. It was the version, they did the version where they created a Jabba.
Yeah, the special.
They put Jabbas in, but it was originally filmed with a human, and they took the human out and they put Jabba in. It's that version, which makes no sense, and it doesn't really work in the movie. But generally speaking, the film's pretty good.
You're a great human being, Jabba.
Yes. Yes. The thing I want to say about it is like my cinema started to do this a lot, and I'm thinking it's because there's not a lot of new films coming out. But my cinema started doing this really a lot. I watched the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man a couple of months ago. That was brilliant as well. I've been saying for a long time, cinemas need to be doing this. They need to be. We've got a whole generation of people, probably for about 20 years, that have never seen films like Predator at the cinema. I've never seen Terminator 2 at the cinema. I've never seen the Star Wars movies at the cinema. There's these great movies, and our cinemas need to be going like crazy to, do that. Anyway.
Well, whatchamacallit? Coraline just had a re-release, and if I'm not mistaken, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. It was still in the top 10 highest grossing films of the week kind of deal. So it's fun.
Well, when cinemas need to make a few quid as well. But I tell you what, I think that Star Wars thing is, I think that's got legs. I think we could see sequels in it. I actually quite liked it. I thought it was good.
I've always thought, if George Lucas really applied himself, he would make something of himself someday.
Yeah, he needs to work a little bit harder. And I think all those very cool like lightsabers things. I mean, if they market that right, I can make a fortune.
Oh, can you imagine if they had toys of all the characters? That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe
I want a lightsaber I can actually use. So it goes when you throw it around. That'd be amazing. I've actually got 3 somewhere. I love my lightsabers. I'm such a child. But no, man, it was really cool. But yeah, we have got info on Blade. We have got info on Stargate. We have got an update on Star Trek from a couple of weeks ago as well. So we've got a lot to talk about. But yeah, I just wanted to. I mean, Stormy actually remembers Star Wars first time round, which is just. I don't. I was -1. So I don't.
My brain was blown. I remember, the thing that really told me I had to go see it was it was People magazine or some sort of magazine that had a close up of C-3PO in the Tatooine desert, and I was just the image. It was so intriguing. Like, what the hell is that? And I just, so my grandparents dropped me off at the theater that Saturday that it came out. it really hadn't got the, I mean, there was vibe about it, but it didn't become Star Wars until that later that week. Because then it's like people that went to go see it that first weekend, especially in West Virginia where I saw it, it took a while for that's awesome. That is awesome.
I picked this out specifically. R2-D2, my man, foul mouth little sod. When they beeped out everything he said. Constant. Beep, 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 mother, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just blew me away. I mean, it was just,
cool.
It was the big screen, it was the Dolby treatment, and it was just it just nothing has ever been the same since,
Yeah.
Bless. Has anything ever captured you like it though? Did Dune capture you like it, or would Lord of the Rings have captured you like it? Maybe. Did anything reach that?
I mean, it's the gap between. Let me think of a good analogy. I don't know. Some other movie that came out in the
modern times. I think it's probably Lord of the Rings.
Modern, right?
That had the same sort of excitement, momentum. People were literally queuing to get into the cinema to get tickets. The whole thing, we've got a multiplex. It's like 10 screens.
Yeah.
All of them were playing Lord of the Rings for like 3 weeks. It was,
the gap between something that came out in the same era, like The Land of Time Forgot by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and Star Wars was just a few years, but that gap was almost infinite compared to the gap between Star Wars, New Hope, when it first came out, and Lord of the Rings. Because no one had ever heard of a blockbuster until Jaws. And Jaws was about a year or so before, I think. A year?
Yeah. And then you had Star Trek, the motion picture. I suppose The Wrath of Khan was the first one that was like huge, though.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wouldn't put that in the same league as the Star Wars, if I'm honest.
There's something about Jaws, and I remember that it was odd that people said, "Hey, I went to go see that again. It was so good." And back then, it's like, well, why did you go see it again? You've already seen it once. Why are you wasting your money to go see it twice? And then when Star Wars rolled around, and like Jimmy's saying, that like Lord of the Rings, they played it for weeks and weeks and weeks. There was a theater in my town that played Star Wars constantly until the next one came out. And I think it was.
Really? Well, like 3 years or something.
Oh, it is every week. I mean, yeah. I mean, I went a dozen times. Yeah. Like once a month, I would go watch it again.
Like maybe when Titanic came out, that was insane as well. That everybody was nuts on that. But anyway,
I mean, Empire. I mean, literally, the only reason they stopped showing Star Wars was to play Empire Strikes Back at this one theater, and then they played the shit out of that. And then, but it didn't last. I mean, they didn't keep playing that until, Return of the Jedi. But between Star Wars and that's all they did. It was just every day, matinees on the weekends, 2 shows at night, all the time.
Mad, yeah. Let's get into this news anyway, because everyone's going to be biting at the bit, otherwise they're going to.
Yeah, get good. I'm tired of talking. Good Lord.
Do it. Real
just
quick.
Mute my mic, for God's sake.
We will jump into this momentarily, but the news for Stargate will be summarized in its own clip video, with maybe a couple of other reactions as well later. We're talking about that before stream, so we got that planned for you. Don't worry.
Red, as far as I know, Alcon were never in talks for Stargate. They couldn't afford it if they wanted to. Alcon is still trying to get a more thingy going, which I've now forgotten the name of because it's gone straight out my head. Oh, come on.
Okay.
The most realistic sci-fi ever made, and my brain is refusing to let me.
Interstellar.
No, that's just fuck off.
The Expanse show? Is it TV show?
Alcon is still trying to get the Expanse reboot. Spin-offs going as far as
2001.
Yeah, they were never in talks to to get it, I'm afraid. But right, let's talk about Blade quickly first, because we've actually had a bit of information about Blade for a couple of weeks, and we've been trying to get it sort of confirmed. And now I can say we can. So we can say that, and this has been rumored, and a lot of people have been talking about it. And Ryan Reynolds actually tweeted that he desperately wants to do this, and he wants to do a Blade movie. But we can actually confirm that Ryan Reynolds has pitched a Blade idea to Kevin Feige over at Marvel. We can also confirm that Kevin Feige has dismissed it. So, Ryan Reynolds pitched for the Wolverine movie like 5 times before they hit on it. So apparently, this was before Wolverine came out that he's pitched an idea for a Blade movie. When Wolverine came out, Kevin Feige went, "Okay, come on, let's do this. Let's, but we need a better idea," sort of thing. And now they're batting a few ideas around. But the rumor I'm being told is basically that Ryan Reynolds really wants to go into more like, he wants to be like a producer. He wants to create like his own sort of universe within a universe over at Marvel, and he's now getting enough sort of juice, particularly after Wolverine, that's now made well over $1 billion, to really do what he wants. There are rumors about a Wolverine Hulk movie that are genuinely going around at the moment, and that looks like, again, Ryan Reynolds will be involved in that because he wants to make that a bit tongue-in-cheek. But from what I'm being told is the Blade movie he pitched was a serious movie, and this thing about it being like a Logan-style movie, I'm hearing probably isn't quite where they're going to go with it, and it will fit within the Blade trilogy as a 4th movie. But yeah, that he is actually, and it looks like Kevin Feige just needs to get the right story to greenlight it. And so they're just batting a few ideas around. And this is actually going to happen by the sounds of it. I'd love to know what you guys think about that before we crack on with the Stargate news, which is quite exciting. But go on.
Stormy?
I think it's quite exciting anyway.
Do you have any thoughts, Stormy? Because I got a few.
Well, somebody else said they're surprised that I can keep my mouth shut. Who was that? What, Stormy? I'm interested in the idea of the world within the world, the Marvel within the Marvel that he's pitching. I mean, but would it, like, if it was Reynolds, would it all be kind of humorous and camp, or would it be serious like Infinity War?
Yeah, I should confirm this is a Wesley Snipes Blade movie. Yes. Sarah just said, and I probably didn't specify that. It's a Wesley Snipes.
Okay. Well, again, would that be? It would. Do you think Reynolds would be handling Blade seriously, or to be like camp, or?
I'm hearing it's supposed to be a serious Blade movie that would fit with the original trilogy. So it'll have a bit of humor, it'll have a bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff, but it will be a Blade movie, but it will not necessarily be within the MCU. It'll be a multiverse movie.
Oh, okay. I think it'd be awesome. I mean, more Marvel the better for me, but I'm just a total slave to the fandom. Well, any idea on what Snipes' thoughts on that would be? Would be a Ron Reynolds project?
He's all in, huh?
I think he'd be all in, particularly after I watched a video earlier and it was saying about, and it was sort of like skirting around this rumor it's the worst kept secret in Hollywood at the moment that Ryan Reynolds wants to do these type of things. But they were still saying, oh well, after the failure of Blade Trinity, because no, that was nothing to do with it. Blade Trinity did okay. It was the failure of Wesley Snipes' ability to pay tax that was the problem. That screwed his career for a good decade, and it's just that happened now long enough ago that people have kind of forgotten. But that's what destroyed Wesley Snipes' career and why we never got another Blade movie. It's got nothing to do with anything else. But now it's like, but Snipes is not gonna say no to this.
No, he owed, like, what was it? I mean, tens of millions of dollars in back taxes, wasn't it?
He owed more than Nick Cage did, right?
Yeah.
Pardon?
He owned or owed more than Nick Cage did at one point, I believe.
Yeah, I mean it was a lot. I mean it was Spielberg dough, kind of, as I remember. It was a lot of money.
Did he do jail time? I think he did, didn't he?
I don't know. I know at one point he's hiding in Africa for some point in time. Just
But anyway, what do you think, Harrison?
So
Wesley Snipes Blade movie.
Monk just put up in here. Secular Monk said, "Would Ryan Reynolds reprise his character in Blade 4?" That
No.
we have not. I don't know if there's any information per se.
Ryan Reynolds has said more than once he would never come back as Quaid. Quaid? Has I got that right?
I don't know if it's that. It is like a little. Remind us that his name in the Trinity movie, if you don't mind. It is. It's like
just been watching a film with Dennis Quaid in, and I think I've got Dennis Quaid stuck in my head. Literally just watching a golf movie with Dennis Quaid in like 5 minutes before we came on. So,
see, I'm not convinced he wouldn't come back. If he was willing to put his face out there in Deadpool as Nice Pool like that, obviously that's his like alter ego or whatever he likes to call that, which is a funny little joke. Hannibal King, thank you, Monk. Thank you, Hannibal King. I totally think he'd be back. I don't think there's a way he does this with his character still alive in Blade Trinity and wants to come back as a producer after doing Deadpool, where his face is either completely covered or it looks like an avocado or whatever the first movie says. I totally think he's pitching himself to come back. But the thing that excites me the most about this is this totally opens the door, and I feel like it is the best door the MCU has the potential to open to bring in the Midnight Suns. Obviously, we had Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night, and those could both be utilized to jump into that space. But your Midnight Suns or your Ghost Rider, your more spooky, kind of scary kind of guys that are maybe not good 100% of the time, but a solid 80 to 90. Somewhere in that range.
The paranormal side of Marvel, I think, is perfect to build Blade around. Yeah,
I really think so. And if Mahershala
that could be the universe within a universe, something. Yeah, we could see Ghost Rider come back. We could see other characters come back, and they could build that around Blade.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a good way to set up Mahershala Ali's Blade. I know people have mentioned it a few times. It's been pushed back or canceled or rewritten. Not truly canceled, but
pretty much dead, I think.
Yeah. Mahershala at this point is a decade younger than Snipes, and Snipes has had this role for 25 years now, and we've waited 6 years for one movie with Mahershala, and we've gotten a little bit of voice. I love Mahershala Ali. He's a 2-time friggin' Oscar winner. He's one of the most talented working actors, probably my top 2 or 3 favorite working actors right now. It's just too little too late at this point.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get I think it's going to be, if we get anything, it'll be a Snipes Blade. And what I was being told is that he wants to create this universe within a universe. I think what you're talking about, like with Ghost Rider and all those sorts of things, that makes sense to me. That they could really do a phase 7. What are we on now? 5. Of a universe within a universe that makes sense, and that actually people would actually quite like, because they can sort of do it separately and almost do it as a reset for what's been going on with Marvel recently, which hasn't been great. And you asked me earlier, have you watched Agatha? No, I've not watched Agatha, and to be honest, I don't think I can. I really don't want to watch it.
I was happily shocked with the first 2 episodes. I didn't expect a whole bunch, but it was good. And also, I'm from 20 minutes from Louisiana. I'm a Texan till the cows come home, but 20 minutes from Louisiana. I like the voodoo stuff. I like witchy stuff. So it does play into my things that I do enjoy. That might not hit you as well, but it was definitely more fun than I expected in a quality way.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Anyway, I was going to say there's another Wesley Snipes kind of movie and a sequel I would love to see, and that's him redoing his character Nino Brown from New Jack City, because Nino should be out of jail, but this time instead of crack, it's fentanyl. That would be awesome. Bring Ice Cube back, or Ice-T, excuse me.
Yeah. No, I want him to do Passenger 639 again. Passenger 39? Passenger. Always bet on black. That's what I want to see that.
Oh, yeah,
that's a great line.
No one's enthused about New Jack City too?
No, not really.
Can we do Blade 2049?
I'd watch Demolition Man.
Oh, what a great crossover that would be. Blade 2049. Oliver for the win, man.
I want to see the aliens running around in that myself. I want to see Harrison Ford running away from an alien.
You know,
Morph. Then just turn around and shoot it, and the alien just goes no and eats him. Be good.
But before we jump into the next topic, the Blade stuff. If we get a Wesley Snipes Blade film, possibly with Hannibal King and all these other little characters, because I don't remember. Remind me the name of the team as well, because Hannibal King sets up his own team in Blade 3 in Blade Trinity. So there is technically a team that Blade can hop on and maybe like lead or be the elder statesman for, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Obviously we said this is a good little pocket thing. Would this be a great place for the MCU to start after Secret Wars? Right after Secret Wars and all that, we're like, all right, all this multiverse stuff is dead and done. Maybe give us a little bit, but do it in a way that we want to be done and not necessarily just throwing spaghetti at a wall.
And it's sort of like, I think they do it, what they were sort of doing when that werewolf, what was it?
Werewolf by Night?
Werewolf by Night came out, and they sort of did it under a different sort of banner. I think that's what they do with this. They do it under a different banner again, and they do make it separate, I think, is the way to do it. But they can make little jokes about it, and they could do whatever they wanted with it if they did it separate. I just think, but I don't want to see it. I do want to see it still as a reasonably serious movie. If I've got one negative thing to say about Wolverine, they went too far in the meta stuff and the fourth wall, and it was a bit too much. They forgot to make a film around it, and I don't want them to see that. It's not a balls out comedy,
No.
But yeah, do it under Marvel Spotlight banner or something. Yeah.
Is that okay? I couldn't remember if Marvel Spotlight was the right banner that they went under.
Yeah. Well, they just create their own Reynolds banner, Marvel Reynolds. Do it. Or they could do whatever they want. And I won't be so shocked if part of that plan is to bring Channing Tatum back as the Gambit.
Please.
As part of that. If Blade does well, I think Ryan Reynolds will be allowed to pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. If he could get a Blade movie done and it did well.
Okay. That just brought up another little question of mine that might be fun to ask. Do you think if Ryan Reynolds continues on the trajectory, especially within Marvel and I almost said Lucasfilm, within Marvel and Disney the way he has, do you think he'll end up being or almost taking the place of what James Gunn was going to take the place of?
Yeah, well,
set up as like mini
he's got like a long-term goal that I think is not acting. That's what this one person was telling me today. He is trying to build himself, and he's got the ambition to build himself an empire, and we can see that from all of his business action. I mean, he does not just do a movie and sit back on his laurels. He's very active and and I think actually trying to get to a point where doing something where he almost was the Kevin Feige of his own thing. It would be his long-term ambition. I think that's kind of what he wants to do. And he knows he can't keep making Deadpool films because it kills him to get in that shape. And he said that in multiple videos. I can't do this much longer. I'm getting old. It's like it's this doing this and wearing this condom outfit is getting difficult.
Have you guys tried his gin?
The what?
Have you guys tried his gin? Aviation gin?
Yes, aviation. I've got a bottle of aviation gin. Yeah. It's all right. I don't really like gin, but it's all right.
I had a friend make me take a couple shots of it, and it was like 2 Halloweens ago. That Halloween, I couldn't tell you what happened. It was
I'm a rum man. That's rum and coke. I'm a rum man.
Yeah, I started drinking Aviator on a lark. It was a Portland brand originally, and I learned about it in Portland. It had an airplane on the front, so okay, I'll buy a bottle. It was really good. It's mostly based in lavender instead of juniper. Really, it was just really tasty. And then all of a sudden, Ryan Reynolds bought it, and then everybody knew about it. But so yeah, I'm an Aviator gin fan. I haven't moved over to Mint Mobile because I'm not that much of a fan. I mean,
fair enough.
He sold both of those companies. He doesn't own either one of those companies anymore.
Really?
He sold his chunk. Yeah, he still owns a chunk of aviation, doesn't he? I know he sold the chunk of Mint because he made like 800 million quid or something, didn't he?
I believe he's technically a billionaire, or spent the money on Wrexham and was a billionaire for like a short time.
He didn't spend that much money on Wrexham. Wrexham wasn't that expensive. I think it only cost him like 6 million to buy it, or maybe was it 15 million? Was it 5 million each? Something like that. It wasn't that much. They haven't put that. They've only put about 15, 20 million into Wrexham each.
That's not shabby.
Yeah, it's
For
not
big old
hundreds of
football
millions
team.
of quid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for team, it's supposed to be. They're trying to do it to be self-sustaining because they know that if they just plow money into it, they can't do that forever. So they're trying to do it in a self-sustaining way. But I think they'll be in the Premier League in 3 or 4 years. I think. But anyway, shall we talk about?
Reynolds only owns a smidgen of Aviation Gin.
He only ever did, yeah.
It was sold to who was it? Diego. They bought it for $610 million.
Yeah. He only owns a chunk of Mint Mobile as well, though, doesn't he? He doesn't own massive of it. But anyway, shall we talk about Stargate?
Well, I wish you would.
Do you want to go?
God in heaven.
Do you want to go Stargate or Star Trek first? Do you want to save that one, or do you want to jump in on the juice?
We'll do Star Trek at the end because that's the one that's most confusing.
Okay, cool.
And we've got a few different. Well, we've got a few different things coming out with Star Trek, but Stargate is pretty much straightforward. And I always try to be very careful to say whether this is a rumor or is happening. And we still have to say this is a rumor because it's very difficult to confirm these things. And obviously, this is a company, they don't want this to get out at the moment. But all I'll tell you is I've heard it from about 5 different sources now that are separate to each other. And I've heard from different angles, if that makes different perspectives of basically the same thing, if that makes sense, which makes me think there's no massive freaking smoke without some fire. So I think I'm pretty confident this has got to be true. So basically the rumor started with one person country saying that Sony and Amazon are in heavy talks to set up some quite big partnerships. Sony are desperate for content and they want access to certain IPs. We'll come back to that in a minute. Amazon apparently have had some delays with some of their studios coming online, and they're not coming online as quickly as they wanted. Apparently, there's been some issue with Canada with like permits or something. But the guy told me, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. But Hackman Group is not getting the studios online as quickly as they're supposed to be. So Sony have studio space at Culver City, and Amazon's headquarters is at Culver City as well. If you actually Google Maps it, you can walk from the Amazon HQ to Sony headquarters in about 4 minutes. They're literally right next to each other in Culver City. So the deal basically goes that Sony want a streaming platform, or they want access to a streaming platform for a lot of their previous content. They have studio space, and Sony would also quite like to get hold of some IP. I spoke to another source immediately who then told me that actually they'd heard this early summer, but they'd heard it about Bond. That the rumor sort of was that Sony and Amazon were talking to each other about Bond and moving forward as Bond in a partnership. And also Amazon wanting access to some of their studio space in Culver City. And then basically I heard another source came back to me and said that basically that Amazon don't have the capacity to do what they want to do with all the MGM stuff, and they'd start to get a lot of flack from the bosses, basically saying, look, we spent $8 billion on this and you've done nothing with it. All we've done is stuck MGM Amazon on pictures we were already making. You've done nothing with this $8 billion investment. You need to do something. So this is potentially a way of increasing capacity significantly so they can actually start getting some of this stuff done. I then had somebody come to me who's very close to MGM Plus, who's basically said Stargate is completely stalled, that Amazon don't know what to do with it. They had a plan during the strikes that went completely to pot. They had a plan under Mark Fergus. Mark Fergus is now refusing to have anything to do with it. And he's got to a point where he's not very happy with Amazon at all because the other big project he was doing, is it Warhammer? God of War. Has been stalled for 2 years now as well, and they're really not happy with him about that. So there's a bit of tension there.
That's been 2 years?
More, mate. It's been 3. It's actually been 3 since it was announced.
Yeah.
So they're getting there's frustration there going on. So he basically said what he'd heard was that Amazon were willing to actually talk to somebody, and he didn't know who at the time, about a license agreement, so that they would basically sell or rent out Stargate IP to a third party. Another person then told me that Sony were interested in a license agreement, and I got to tell all these people are separate to each other. They don't particularly
all
know
individuals.
each other. Yeah. So basically, what we're hearing is that Sony wants to buy an IP. Amazon are willing to sell Stargate. I've then had somebody else say that Stargate is potentially part of this deal. Amazon definitely want to increase capacity, and this is a quick and easy way of doing that. Sony wants access to IP, and they want more stuff to make because some of the stuff they've been doing recently has not gone well, and they've got financial issues. So again, the injection of cash would be quite nice. But basically, the one chap was speaking to me said, he says, look, Sony want a home run. They really need something they can do that they're reasonably confident will work. And apparently, Stargate is one of the things that's come up more than once. That they look at that and go, yeah, we can do something with that. I'd love you guys in the comments really to say, does this smack as, particularly as you guys have been following the story with us for nearly 3 years now, does it make sense to you that actually Amazon would get to a point where they just go, you know what, we don't know what to do with this. Let's just give it to somebody else and let them do it. Let them run with it. And remembering Sony has already had a relationship with Stargate. They produced 2 seasons of SGA.
Was it the last 2 or like the 2 middle ones?
The middle ones, I think.
Okay.
I think it was 2 and 3
of the best ones.
off the top of my head.
Well, I think they should. I mean, because right now they're leaving money on the table. They've had this property for I don't know how long. Don't know what to do with it. Can't figure out. Some of the original supporters, original creators, are distanced from the owners from Amazon now, and so it's just money sitting on the table. And they need to. I think if they could go with Sony, or or if Sony wants it, actually, I think that'd be awesome.
And it's no risk to Amazon and MGM. Basically, they were, or they'd be sharing the risk with Sony.
So it's a license and a buyout.
It would be a license agreement. So my understanding is Sony would pay Amazon a fee, but then Sony would get all the revenue. So it would be similar to sort of the Star Trek Secret Hideout deal in some ways. Okay. It would be a similar sort of thing. It won't. The normal way of doing it is the other way around, where Amazon would pay Sony a fee. Oh, sorry, no, that's what Paramount do. This is the normal way around. Sony right, fee and then keep it. What happened with Star Trek is Paramount paid Secret Hideout a fee, which is just mental. No one else has done that. I think.
I'm amazed demons weren't summoned with that whole deal. I'm just.
Yeah. Chilling makes sense there. It says it scares us because Sony hasn't made many wins yet. You think about the Sony Marvel stuff. I mean, I am so irritated. The Sony Spider-Mans are really good. I cannot stand the pigging Sony Carnage in those films. I just can't stand them. They're so badly made. Brilliant characters, badly made. It's annoying. But basically, somebody said a minute ago, what's my gut reaction on this? I think this has got legs. I think this might be something that might make sense for everyone. And I don't know if we'll get an announcement of like one big deal. Venom, yeah. I don't know if we'll get that because I think it makes Amazon look weak. I think, but what we'll do is we'll get announcements of big partnership deals. And we might get an announcement that Sony or that Amazon are renting out some of Culver City, maybe. But I think this might have legs. And remembering Amazon's biggest hit in the last 5 years was in partnership with Sony, with the boys.
Yeah.
So they've already got that working relationship. They've already got to know how to do it.
That's right. I totally forgot about it. Yeah, that's a Sony co-producer. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Khan just asked why won't Amazon let MGM produce it, because MGM basically doesn't exist anymore, mate.
Yeah.
It's virtually non-existent as a production, as really as a company. It's been completely absorbed into Amazon.
Real quick, Seppi, we just tried to clarify that a second ago. They're not buying it; they would be licensed it, so they can't sell it to a streamer or anything like that. Essentially, Sony would be coming into MGM to use them as a streamer. Is that correct? Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So then it would basically be sold. But it sounds like the idea is as well is that Sony will then have a streaming deal with Amazon.
Which would be cool.
Which would be so all their movies would go on Amazon, or they might even get a Sony sub channel, maybe, I don't know. What? But because Sony don't have a streaming thing, and they're probably the biggest studio that doesn't have one.
Yeah, and that's kind of held them back a little bit. So something you just said, them putting out TV shows, and I completely blanked on it. And you said it 3 times, and then clicked your heels, and it came back to my brain real quick. Spider-Man Noir with Nick Cage is a Sony-produced thing that is going on Amazon Prime. So they're totally. Do they already have a deal that we might just not know about publicly, or?
I think it's maybe this is just from what I was talking about. Like, say, I talked to the second person I spoke to that sort of confirmed this. Said this was something about 6 months ago that they were hearing it, but it just seems that this is like maybe like one of those deals, sort of like a snowball deal. Okay, we had the deal with The Boys. That's done really well. We've done a couple of movies partnerships. They've done quite well. So it just seems to be like maybe it's one of those things that's just sort of naturally growing as a partnership. Sony, have been losing quite a bit of money recently. Yeah. So they might be looking to do something a bit different. Amazon are looking at Culver City, which they've already got studio space in, and thinking, this just makes sense, sort of thing. It's just. So I don't know if it's just one of those things that's just slowly snowballed into a bigger thing. And I think maybe as far as Stargate goes, and maybe Bond as well, because Amazon don't seem to quite know what to do with Bond either. It just seems that maybe they're thinking, we've got a studio here that's a really good partner that we were working really well with. It's got 30 years of experience. They were in the late 80s, weren't they? Early 90s. I think
Sony. Yeah.
Sony was a while. So maybe they're just thinking, you know what? Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot here. And it wouldn't shock me at all if in 5 to 10 years' time Amazon buys Sony Pictures. That would be the next thing. Sony as a company, mate, is not what it was 10 years ago. It's like if you think it was Sony was the king of electronics. They're not now. And not just their entertainment side, but as a business, they've been slowly, not collapsing. I don't think they're not going to go under anytime soon, but they're not the company they were 10 or 20 years ago when they were Goliath.
Well, the only two products that I can, off the top of my head, that Sony produces is PlayStation and a line of 35 millimeter cameras.
But nobody buys cameras anymore. They do headphones and stuff, and the Sony used to be like the top. They used to be like the best headphones you could buy without spending like stupid money. Like Bass and Host and things like this were like really ridiculous. But now it's all earbuds. Everybody wants earbuds. Nobody wants Sony. It's just sort of like Sony headphones. What? Even the TVs. People don't buy Sony televisions. They used to be the best.
Yeah.
Now they're just expensive. It's like Philips and all these other companies. They're just not what they were. Or they're not the Goliath
that's made. I don't think I own anything that's made by Sony.
Oh, really? Sony owns Crunchyroll? Oh, well, then they're making plenty of money off anime. They got anime.
Demon King to the rescue. Really? Damn. So, I don't own anything. My TV's Samsung. My computer's Apple. My car is Tesla. In terms of electronics,
I've got Sony.
A high-end camera, but that's going to be a Nikon, not a Sony, because of the lens choices. So maybe,
That's not what it was. Yeah.
I never thought of it.
Like I say, they make some really decent, high-quality stuff. They're just not the company they were.
The quality is great. The quality is great.
I forgot that Sony's doing Ghostbusters right now as well. which they're making money off of. I don't know if they ruined Ghostbusters, but it's not as bad as 2016.
The new Ghostbusters are good. I like the new Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it was
Frozen
right.
Empire wasn't as good as the first one, Afterlife, but it is good. But a couple. Oh, Stormy's
lost the Storm Bear.
He's got a Sony computer and he's just give up on us.
I heard him talking shit.
So Rough Riders there says the Stargate is still in limbo. This feels like a breakthrough is about to come through because it does feel if this happens, I think it'll happen very quickly. I think Sony will come in, and if it happens quickly, they'll want to do something with it quickly. They won't waste time with it like Amazon have done, but they would have the capacity to do something with it as well, whereas Amazon just don't. But a big problem that Amazon have got is because of those strikes and everything, they had loads of stuff coming online, and it's just delay after delay. I actually think if Amazon had more capacity, if they had more studio space, we'd have had Stargate by now. But their business decision to go we're going to stop renting studio space off people, and we want to use our own, has just meant they've got a massive capacity issue. Well, they made that business decision basically during the strikes, and then it's just that. But you got to remember as well, Amazon have been losing money as a company. They massively overextended themselves during COVID, and they've had to then put a lot right. There were some stores that come out that Amazon lost billions after the COVID stuff, because they've built all these new warehouses and they've massively extended their capacity to ship us all our crap, and then people actually started going to shops again. They're like, what? Why us? Again, they're not in massive problems, but they've had to sort of self-correct as well.
With a lot of their shows too, they expected. I think obviously Rings of Power is the one people talk about that it's just not making it, whether the quality's there or not, depending on any of those opinions. It's just not making the money back that it was ever thought that it would. Neither did the Wheel of Time, and neither did Carnival Row. They put a lot of bucks in all three of those things.
Carnival Row was good as well.
I didn't like that first. I didn't make it past the first 3 or 4 episodes though.
Yeah.
Jay, are you listening?
Yeah. If one side of my face starts to go, will you please phone an ambulance, sir? Because I'm.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, I didn't think I was lisping, but actually, I've just heard it then. I actually did crack a tooth a while ago, and I think that might be a little bit of a problem. I might need to see a dentist about it. But I chipped a tooth.
He got you. Well,
but thank you for pointing out, making me feel bad about myself. Thank you. Now I'm worried about a lisp. Now, thank you. That's great.
I'm bad. It happens.
No, I don't care.
But they spent a lot of money in all 3 of those properties, and Carnival Row, I think, has gotten. Everyone says that second season was really good, and I didn't finish the first season, but people liked it.
I like both.
It just never, for the money that they spent, it never reached the heights that they wanted it to. And I think same thing for Time and definitely Rings of Power. Jade, just say you're learning Spanish.
Sí, señores. Arriba.
I saw that, and I shouldn't have read it out loud, but it was just the brain was going for it. It was funny. But yeah, they spent a lot of money on things that they just are not getting it back from. And I guess that, the property that we haven't talked about that MGM really needs to be putting out there that we've been waiting for longer than even Stargate and James Bond. Legally Blonde, man. And God, the fact that they've been talking about that as like their first thing.
That was in pre-production. That was in pre-production.
Then they put it in a TV show.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have faith in anything they're doing right now. So MGM is my gate manager. It feels like it. Just the Sony stuff sounds nice. Whether it is 100% coming to fruition, if it's a singular show or is it a multitude of series and movies, it's something. Like Sarah said earlier, I believe she said it's something at least, and that's what we need.
I think it's a no-brainer for MGM myself and for Amazon. It's just a no-brainer. It's just if you're not going to do something with it, and somebody else comes in and says we'd like to, and all I hear now is a list. All I'm hearing now is every time I speak, God damn it. But if somebody else is going to come in and do it for you, do it. You just go, right, so you're going to give us money, and then you're going to produce a show for us that'll make us look good. Okay, thank you. You know?
Yeah.
He is blonde.
These things happen.
Blonde.
Coming soon from Sony, Madam Stargate. Oh God, hopefully not.
God, Madam. Oh God, Madam.
That's my biggest worry is just their films have not been hitting. Their more independent films are always good, and I would hope they hire the right team behind it. Which okay, we had a couple comments earlier, and I might want to jump back to those real quick. Two of them in particular, but there was another one that was just like, well, we've talked about Michael Wright wanting to do stuff with MGM Plus. Why would they? Is Sony just a better deal? You're going to take the better offer when you can get it?
Well, no, because I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it won't go straight onto MGM Plus.
That's
Remember,
true.
MGM don't make many. I suppose they finance a few TV shows, but they don't actually make anything. So just the fact that Stargate is going to, and Sony will produce it, doesn't mean it won't go into MGM Plus first, and then that they won't basically do what they've been talking about for the last 3 years. MGM Plus followed by Prime 6 months later, or Freevee 6 months after. So it might be the way to actually get it done, basically. And that's how I see this deal. Is this the way to get this finally done? Amazon have been, for the last 6 months, or 12 months now, actually, nearly, have been trying to prioritize what to do first, because of the 12 months we lost because of the strikes, condensed all the calendar. So they're trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to get studio space up and running, but it's, again, even that's getting delayed. So that their calendar's getting more and more bloody full. Is this just a way to go, right, well, we can crack on now? There's talk about a 2001 Space Odyssey project. That's not happening. Nothing about that's come out. Again, Sony could go for that. The only thing that's come out that actually, out of the projects I was told, Amazon were desperate to get done when they bought MGM Plus. The only one that's actually been announced is Spaceballs 2.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably because actually that's a relatively cheap, easy project to do. Because a lot of these comedies, they are. Because, you don't need the massive CGI. Actually, shitty CGI is kind of the point.
And it works better half the time.
Yeah. So they can do that, and that's not difficult. But other projects like Stargate or whatever, they are expensive to set up, and they are. So, I mean, literally, it's only Spaceballs that we've actually had. Out of 5 or 6 projects I was told 2 years ago Amazon were desperate to do. The main one being Bond, which we're also still waiting on. We also still have nothing.
We almost, I don't know if it was just a false flag, the whole Aaron Taylor Johnson stuff. Like, oh, we've got our new Bond, and then out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, it just kind of faded into the ether more so. And
we've had a couple of false starts. I mean, because we had the fella that's going to do, I've forgotten his name now. He was in Bridgerton. Women love him.
Renee Jean Page.
Renee Jean Page, yeah, or Jean Renee Page, whatever it is. That was the thing that was out that they were going to do. We're going to have a black Bond, and it's going to be him, and it's going to be. Yeah, well, and then he agreed to do the Saint, and apparently, Amazon sort of went, well, you can't do both, and that basically put their plans back to square one. So they were going to do a younger Bond before he was 007, and that was going to be the point of it. But let's say if anybody's moaning that like thinking, oh, well, Stargate's not going to happen, we're waiting too long. We're still waiting on Bond, and Bond will happen. Stargate will happen. It's just that there are business crap. Tom Hiddleston would be great.
Tom Hiddleston would be awesome.
I'd go for Tom Hiddleston.
There's some good ones though.
Yeah. He'd be like an old-fashioned, old-school Bond, which I quite like. But
there are elements of Loki
Jr. was a
too.
kid's got in love. James Bond Jr. Yeah, young Bond. But yeah, a younger Bond. It'd be a Bond in his like mid-20s sort of thing, rather than we normally see Bond in his late 30s.
As long as it's not
40s.
Tom Holland.
I liked the idea of Tom Holland for the younger Bond, but the problem is I don't think that boy will ever look older.
No.
He still
So
looks
the problem is, by Bond 3, you're like, he'd still look exactly the same. And that's not.
But by Bond, I mean, in 10 years, he'll look like Bond in school.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's too short. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I love him, but he's too short. You need somebody that's like 5'11".
Okay, riddle me this. Just somebody while we're thinking about it. I might be a little biased because he shares a name with me. But how about Harris Dickinson as a young Bond?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, why not?
You need somebody like I say. I think you need somebody just pushing 30.
Mm-hmm.
A commander, because they'd have to get to the rank of commander. Don't forget in the Navy as well.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So, so he can't be like 22. So if you're going to go from what I heard was the plan was there was going to be a trilogy of movies that basically went from the Navy, and by the end of the trilogy, he'd be the 007 we know, and that would be his thing, and it would be basically a proper origin story that's going to ignore the multiple origin stories we've already had, or at least the two that we've already had.
Still be an orphan? That's the question.
Yeah, he'll be an orphan. He'll fall in love. Fall in love will die, and blah blah blah. And by the end of it, it'll be the Bond we know. And that was the trilogy idea. But that was 18 months ago. I remember talking about it on a beach in the winter. So God, it must have been 2 years ago. So yeah, crazy. But let's see.
Sounds like 2 more years on Stargate. No matter what, it's going to be 2 years. When we get an announcement, imagine 1.5 to 2 years after that. That's
even if we got an announcement today that they were doing it, we probably wouldn't see on our screens for 18 months a series, unless they've. Well, I know for a fact nothing's in any sort. Well, no, there's apparently the guy, according to the guy over at MGM I spoke to 6 months ago now, said there was a third party trying to develop something. I'm wondering now if that third party was Sony. And in that case, they've been thinking about this for a while, in which case it could get announced. And what do I always say? They need a director, a star, and a producer, sort of thing.
Yep.
There's 3 things in place before it gets announced. So in theory, you can get announced that, we're doing it, and it's going in the writer's room tomorrow. And in that case, it could be being filmed in 6 months.
Who's going to be the token broccoli?
Sorry?
Who's going to be the token broccoli?
I don't know. Broccoli? What?
Right. You know, who is it? Who is
the James Bond producer?
I was like broccoli. Oh, broccoli.
No, it's broccoli.
It's broccoli.
See, it's broccoli now. But who? I mean, is all that that production, or at least the input? Like the Tolkien family, there's an estate or something, or how does that work? Does anybody know?
I don't know, but they are the producers, and they do have a lot of power when it comes to James Bond.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how it works because obviously they're employees basically, aren't they? So I don't really quite know how it works. But anyway, new broccoli.
New broccoli.
Calling herself broccoli is like, we had a TV show in the UK called Keeping Up Appearances, and it was a woman that came from very common background, and all her family's really common, but then she was like trying to pretend to be really posh, and her name was Mrs. Bucket, but she said it's pronounced bouquet, and I just like no, your name's broccoli. Look, sorry, it's just
Albert R.
Okay, well, before we jump off and
that shit broccoli forever.
But okay, Stargate wise, we covered. So Michael Wright and his MGM plan can still kind of happen in its own way, which is kind of cool.
This would just be the way to make it happen. Yeah.
If this is the case, though, why the hell did they just not sell it to Joe Flanagan? And could Joe Flanagan come in there and bring back another little thing? Because I saw that comment come up earlier.
It was a completely different situation.
I would think so.
And my understanding is that one of the backers behind Joe Flanagan back then was Sony. So I mean, always linked to Sony. They were gonna make it, sort of thing. Joe Flanagan could very easily come in and do something with this, because they're going to want a figurehead. They're going to want somebody. And again, we've always said this. I've always thought it was going to be. They seem to be, pardon the pun, tapping up Amanda Tapping. And when they were looking at doing the movie and stuff, it seemed to be Amanda Tapping that was always the name I was hearing. Keeping Up Appearances. That's great. she would come in and potentially. I mean, I generally think when they were looking at doing this before the strikes, it was Amanda Tapping they were talking to, and they're going to want somebody to come in and be the top of things, sort of thing. So I have to see. I don't know.
Obviously, RDA and Amanda Tapping are like the two head honchos you kind of just think about, especially just RDA's RDA, and Amanda Tapping is now who she is in the film world, directing wise, producing wise, as well as an actress. Sony already has a working relationship with SGA because of Joe Flanagan. If they were one of those miracle backers for him back in the day when he did offer to buy, does this I mean, hopefully at least, but could this push Stargate Atlantis more at the forefront of everything we get back at the beginning instead of maybe SG1 or SGU?
Whatever they do with it, I think we're going to see Atlantis again. I always like the was it one of the comic books that oh no, it was sorry, it was one of Joseph Malozzi's ideas for the one of the films, Extinction, I think, that we were going to see Atlantis on the moon, and it's going to be a moon base, and it's basically the new Stargate Command, because you get it off planet Earth and you use it like, and I always thought that made sense to me. That was just like that's logical. Do that. I mean, yeah, okay, we've left the other galaxy to fend for itself, and like all those space vampires that we woke up, they're just eating everybody. I'm like, oopsie. So you know, that means basically we won't do anything about that. But maybe we're getting to a position in the new start of the series where we could do something about it. But I think it would be cool to see some sort of hybrid thing of the first of all three shows, at least somehow a part of the first season. I mean, we talked about way back when we imagined what our season would be like. We basically went, we would go and eventually go and try to save the crew of the Destiny, but it would be maybe not a full season, but it would be maybe like a big double episode or working up towards it over the season, and then you go and save them, and if something bad happens, craziness. But I'd love to see. And I'd love to see legacy characters come back from all three. I'm pretty sure all of them would, except for David Blue. He can fuck off. I don't like David Blue.
I like him as an actor. I don't know. He seems like hard to work with, but hell, it happens. People are people.
I'm being mean. I've just spoken to a couple of people that have worked with him, and they don't like him. And it's people I respect. I'm like, and he was mean about me as well at one point. So fuck him.
Well, it happens.
Talking about so shut up, Dave.
Because just thinking about it, as we're talking about this, realistically, obviously we have the Goa'uld, the remainders of the Goa'uld, whatever that may be, and we have the Lucian Alliance, which feels like the more imminent threat for probably humanity. But whether or not Lucian Alliance is the most imminent threat and then the closest threat, it's not a true threat. It's more like they're going to be mosquitoes pestering us a lot. The Wraith, I mean, as much as we want answers for SGU and what happened to the Destiny, the most prevalent thing that we need to be focused on or that we would have been focused on during this time period would be the Wraith.
Mm-hmm.
In a big way. So it would almost make the most sense for this to happen this way. And it would
I think that'd be a good way of starting it, that they attack the Earth, which they've wanted to do, and that might be a fun way. So there are so many really easy ways to start this series.
Yeah.
They wanted to.
And
or when they finally get
Flanagan and Sony are involved, bring back Jason Momoa as fast as you can.
I take that'll be 90% of the budget.
That's okay with me. As fast as you can.
Why not? Yeah, bring the replicators back again in a different form.
Well, no.
No.
I don't know. Okay, but the last question for the Stargate stuff that I saw was a good comment was, does this open the door for Brad Wright again?
I don't know, man, but again,
or
they're gonna want somebody. And the thing is that if this happens as well, you could argue that it'll just be a fresh start as well. So really, all of this build-up and all of the last 3 years of going from bloody pillar to post with it and not knowing what to do, blah, blah, you could just say, right, well, clean slate. And you go again, they've been running pretty much from day one from Mark Fergus's plan. Mark Fergus set up a plan. That's what Amazon have been running with. Right, this is our Bible. This is what we're, and nobody's been able to figure out how to make it work. Okay, yeah, it looked like we had a movie in the early stages of pre-production before the strikes, and then that went out the window. But that's we did come. But I just wonder whether this might be a good thing in the fact that it's just a reset. Okay, we've had 3 years. We don't know what to do with it. Sony, what do you think? Who can I bring in? And if Sony turn around and go, Brad Wright's got a plan, why don't we just do that? You know Brad Wright will jump on it. Yeah. You know he'll be all over that. And again, a very easy way to do it because he's been thinking about it for 6 years. It's in his head. But I will say that Brad Wright has more than once said he's basically semi-retired. He'd come back.
I'm retired for a little Stargate, and I think the world would be better for it. Hopefully.
We've always said we would love Brad Wright to come in. We've always been a big supporter of Brad Wright.
And honestly, we would have to respect retirement one way or another. The whole fandom would be, come back one way or another. But if he's retired, he's retired. We should respect that. And I think the best place for him to be would be like an overseer. Not necessarily the Kevin Feige, but maybe the guy that wrote the comics that Kevin Feige talks to put that into the movies, you know? Yeah. Somewhere along
this as well. When he told us that he'd semi-retired, I think he had a little glint in his eye and a little smile. So I'm not sure I really believe him. Yeah. It's just that
if he never does come back, I mean, Brad Wright was responsible for a lot of stuff that we already cherish, you know? It reminds me of something Harlan Ellison said way back when, is that the fandom is not owed anything from the creator. The creator gets the stories and movies or whatever out of their system and on the screen or onto paper, and it is an exhausting process in many times. And they get, a lot of times they go at the pace that they can go and for as long as they can go. But at some point in time, they are owed peace in their lifetime for what they've produced for humanity.
Very much so.
Yep. He can come and do what he likes, as far as I'm concerned. I'd love him to come in. And as well, you've got this whole thing of they had this massive project with Mark Fergus to create this Bible for Stargate. Yeah. You don't need that if you've got Brad Wright involved. Or Joseph Malozzi, or Robert Cooper, or somebody like that. Somebody that actually knows it anyway. You don't need a Bible.
Well,
he
knows they would still write their own Bible.
Yeah. He could. You could almost do him as like a in Star Trek, which we're going to talk about in a minute. They use Roddenberry and Gene Roddenberry's kid as like a Star Trek monitor, and they've now got a deal basically where all the major storylines go through a Roddenberry entertainment, and they sort of like saying, "Oh, this needs to be a bit more Trek. That's not very Star Trekky. That's what," and they quite regularly as well. "Oh, that's breaking canon," and they use it almost like as a school monitor sort of thing, just to sort of like, can you check our work, please?
Yeah, Majel Barrett did that a lot for Roddenberry too after he passed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Melvin just brought up a good thing. Brad could be like the ancients, don't interfere but guide them in the right direction. That sounds like the Roddenberry.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, that he could be just like he could be just like their spell checker. Have we got this right? Yeah, that's the direction you need to go in. Boom. Yeah, and I think even Brad Wright would probably be the first one to come in and say, "Look, we need new writers, we need new blood, we need this, we need this to go in a different direction. It needs to be fresh, it needs to be different, but it's still got to be Stargate, and that's the best way of." And we know as well that Brad Wright is more than happy to do that sort of thing because he did it. Joseph Malozzi ran most of SGA. He worked with Robert Cooper. He worked with the DeLuise, and Peter DeLuise a lot. So he's already done it. He stepped away from Stargate for a couple of years and came back. So Brad Wright's already shown that he can work with other people. He can, and he can get the best out of people. So I don't have any problem with it.
I think it'd be great. The thing that you made me think about while just mentioning all these different little things, and especially talking about the Bible, and the reason I keep bringing this comment back up is, if Mark Fergus has already written the Bible that Amazon and MGM are sticking with at the moment, it's based off of Brad Wright stuff, so he probably wouldn't rewrite the whole Bible. He might add and subtract certain things, or Robert Cooper, DeLuise, whoever would come on to do this. If Sony were to do it, and I guess that's our hypothetical we're going with at the moment. But one way or another, not hypothetical, because Fergus wrote the Bible, does he automatically get a producer's credit on whatever Stargate thing is coming out?
No, because I think he basically did that as a job. So
Okay.
MGM own it. I don't think they'd even need to credit him. And it's not something that would then appear on screen. It was basically the idea of the Bible, I was told, was basically Amazon were like, okay, what's canon? What can we where can we bend the rules? What's the gist of this universe that we're in now? Because there would have been things that probably would have been different. But then the idea was that then, because Mark Fergus did that before when we did those initial pitches, and they had those pitch meetings, which for God's sake now is 2 years ago, when those pitch meetings, Mark Fergus then won the pitch meeting. But basically what Amazon wanted, they wanted something to give to the people that were then going to pitch, which included Bad Robot, the guys that did The Boys, a few others, say, right, this is the rules. These are the rules. This is what you got to follow. You can't veer from this. And I think from what I hear, Bad Robot went and pitched something completely different, and they were told to do one, and then they came back and pitched something else that was more within the rules. But that's what the Bible was. It wasn't something that was maybe designed for the entire series. It was a set of rules for the people to pitch to. So they had an idea what Amazon wanted them to do, where they could fudge things, where they couldn't. That was the idea of it. But Mark Fergus produced that. So no, he would never get any producer role. They never necessarily ever had to even credit him for it.
Amen, Sci-Fi Quest.
Yes, no AI writing.
I hate that Amazon Peter Jackson, Brad Wright. They Peter Jackson to Peter Jackson too.
Yeah. Should we just spend the last 20 minutes talking about Star Trek because it's really confusing?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Sure, go for it.
And we'll come back to this Stargate story. We will come back to it because I'll hopefully try to find out a bit more as time goes on. And hey, God knows we might even get something official sooner rather than later. But keep an eye on Amazon Sony. I think that's where we're going with this. Keep an eye on it. Any deals that you hear, Amazon Sony, will be very interesting. Star Trek. Right. Remember 2 weeks ago we talked about there's this sort of like sort of independent team that Skydance has put together. It's some Skydance employees, some Paramount employees, and some contractors, external contractors. And basically Skydance are asking them to look at all the major franchises and put in recommendations. There's another project going on. They're looking at all of the studio spaces and actually doing engineering trying to figure out how much would it cost to renovate, what studio space they get rid of. There's a lot of these projects going on. What is the real state of Paramount when Skydance come in? So we talked about there's been recommendations for Yellowstone and a few other things, and we did know there was some Star Trek recommendations ready to go, but we didn't know what the actual final recommendation was as far as Secret Hideout goes. We do now. So basically, the recommendation, and again, this is quite a big document, but the summary of the recommendation is that the long-term franchise is more valuable internally, i.e., produced within Paramount. I can't read my own writing. The long-term franchise is more valuable internally, i.e., internally produced piece of work. There is the short-term financial impact is worthwhile and outweighs the long-term. My handwriting is atrocious. I really do have to work on this. I probably should have typed this down.
So now you've got lists in your handwriting.
Basically, the short-term impact, the long-term financial gain is worth the short-term financial impact. And apparently they did sort of do some math, and they actually think that by ending the contract when it's supposed to end, which would actually be 2026, will still cost Paramount around $100 million. which is a crap load of money. But they said the long-term benefit of internalizing the franchise way out is way more valuable than that. They've also done a recommendation on Legacy. So obviously, Star Trek Legacy is the show that a lot of Star Trek fans want. That's the show that a lot of fans are quite excited about. I have been told actually that Alex Kurtzman is actively blocking Legacy. He doesn't want to do it, and this is something I've heard lots of times, but I've never believed, because I thought it was so petty. Because the reasoning basically is that it wasn't his baby, so he didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to do Legacy. He wanted to do Academy. He wanted to do other things. The reason why we should have had the Legacy announcement now, basically around this time, because what the plan was that Legacy would immediately follow Academy. So as soon as Academy started filming, we'd get an announcement for Legacy, because then that would go into the writer's room. While Academy was filming, they would do all the pre-work for Legacy. And then when Academy ended, Legacy would start filming, and then that is when Series 4, Series 4 Strange New Worlds would start pre-production. And they could only film one thing at once. They have one thing in pre-production at a time. They have one thing in post-production at a time. But
wow,
the people that over at Paramount that were pushing for this and that were really coming down hard on Metalis, and they were actually the people that forced Kurtzman out of Picard season 3 and said, we don't want you to have anything to do with it. We want someone else to come in. And also forced him to, he's not allowed to showrun Academy on his own. They forced him to have a partner to showrun Academy. Those people got made redundant when the first round of redundancies went and the big executives went. I'm being told that ever since, Kurtzman has been doing whatever he wants with no oversight. They have basically told him to carry on as normal and have just let him go. Right? So that's why we've now got a sitcom instead of Legacy, because nobody's telling him to do Legacy anymore. But the recommendation by this team was that basically that's not a bad thing, because Legacy is the long-term project we quite like to do, and Legacy would be a great way of restarting Star Trek post-Kurtzman. And that is basically their recommendation, that Skydance should actively try to block Skydance. Within Star Trek right now, he's pretty powerful in that basically, if he wants to be a complete knob about it, he can do what any Star Trek he likes. But he has got a contract. The last time they had the contract, they extended it when it had 2 years left. They extended it. That's already gone by. There's already less than 2 years left in this contract. There's technically only 1 year left on the contract, because at the end in August 2025, he can no longer start any new projects. He's then got 12 months to basically finish whatever he's already started. That's how the contract apparently works. So
and they have the option to option any of his shows that are still running, correct? They don't have
basically
to,
they can greenlight anything if they can get someone to buy it.
Okay.
That's the craziness about the way the Star Trek Secret Hideout contract was put together. It gives virtually total creative control to Secret Hideout. Paramount have first dibs on anything, but like with Picard, they were able to get Amazon to co-fund it, and Paramount were fine with it. And same with the start of Discovery, but that was more because Paramount Plus didn't exist then. So there is, though, I've had a chat with somebody else basically saying that they think, and this person isn't close to this, but they are. Right. If I could tell you who it was, it'd make sense to you, but I'll say that. But they've basically said they think the most likely scenario is that Strange Secret Hideout will get a 2-year extension, pretty much as soon as Secret Hideout, as soon as Skydance come in. But their argument is just because that's just the easiest way to do this, because they just want to kick the can down the road a little while until they decide, because they've got so much other stuff to do. They might decide, let's not focus on Star Trek right now. Let's just give them a 2, and that extension actually could happen any time. Paramount would just ask for Skydance's blessing, to basically say, "We'll just extend it." And apparently, there is stuff within the existing contract that would allow them to do that quite easily. It would just be triggering an extension sort of thing. I do think that's probably most likely.
Do you think that is probably the best route? Or obviously, Star Trek aspect, that's not fun for all of us that want to be watching it and stuff like that. But thinking from the company wise, thinking from the producer, studio head wise, Star Trek's not their biggest moneymaker right now. They probably make more money. I don't know if they make more money, but they probably make close to the same amount of money, if not a little bit more money, with Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible movies. And they have all the Yellowstone franchise and everything around there.
I think they make money on the Yellowstone. I think didn't the last Mission Impossible movie lose quite a lot of money?
I don't think it lost a lot of money. I think it lost a little bit.
Yeah, but it's for them. It's what draws people to the streaming platform. Well, remember, there's no real advertising on Star Trek, and what can you sell internationally as well? Star Trek you can sell internationally. It's available in every part of the world. So are the Top Gun movies and the Top Cruise movies. So it's similar sort of thing. But I'm more saying, like, is Star Trek kind of like that perfect thing where they know they can be a little bit more hands off with it, and they know it's going to be consistent enough over the next couple of years where they're like, all right, we'll focus on the 2 or 3 things that we probably need to focus on that will make us our biggest bucks right now. Let this kind of like just meddle for a little bit, because it's kind of been meddling for a couple of years anyway. So just let it do its thing, run that dry, and then let's hit that hard kind of deal maybe. And then come back with Legacy in maybe 4 years' time, sort of thing. I could see that, and as well, if they've got any sense, what they could do is when they do the extension, put in something that allows somebody else maybe to do Legacy. They could do that, or at least start work on Legacy. They could do that maybe. But I think a couple of years down the line, Legacy would work. But I'd like to see the Enterprise G getting smashed to hell, and with the Legacy starts with the launch of the Enterprise H. That's what I want. But with 7 of 9 in command. I
like H theme things, so I'm down.
Yeah, but I think that's possibly a way to go. The problem is, if Skydance knows Star Trek is pretty much one of the most valuable, consistently valuable franchises. It's done very well for 70 years. So it is important. But and an extension would allow them to see what happens with Academy, because they could get 2 or 3 seasons of Academy under their belts by then, and a couple of seasons of the bloody sitcom thing. But most importantly, it would allow them to finish Strange New Worlds, and I think that's maybe the one thing that might get them. Strange New Worlds won't. By the end of the 2 years, they say we get a Strange New Worlds every 18 months or so. So we'll get another series in. We're about to get season 3. It'll take us another 18 months to get season 4. Season 4 will have just done, and this contract will be pretty much over. The 2 years will be done. If you then want them to finish off Strange New Worlds for season 5, which was always generally the plan, you need to give a 2-year extension, basically.
Okay.
So that might be the way they end up going. It's not what this internal thing is recommending. That is what somebody else that works more on that side of the industry sort of says that he thinks that's what will happen, because that's what makes sense to them. And I can follow his logic. If they let the contract run out, we will not get a 5th season of Strange New Worlds, I don't think, unless they do the other option, which this guy said, is just basically you just give them a contract just to finish Strange New Worlds, but Secret Hideout might not go for it because it might not be particularly financially beneficial for them. So but that's a possibility. And I thought they'd do that rather than it. But Kurtzman seems to be a bit of an egomaniac. He might say no just because of a pride thing. And that has been suggested to me more than once, that he is a bit of a character, put him that way.
Interesting.
And like I say, this whole thing about him actively blocking Legacy is simply because he's irritated that it did so well. I mean, if that's true, that's pretty petty.
Yeah, you want Star Trek. If you're the head of Star Trek, essentially, in the public's eyes, you want any Star Trek to do well, whether it's completely 100% your baby or 80% your baby. You know that's iffy.
Mm. Yeah. Rough Riders has just said there, can Paramount produce Legacy outside a Secret Hideout contract? No, they can't. The contract is an exclusive deal that Secret Hideout exclusively produce Star Trek TV.
Hell was Paramount thinking? I mean, oh my God.
I'm not even sure where it comes in with the cinematic movie. I think the cinematic movies are separate. But if they do within Prime universe, I think they have to involve Secret Hideout, from what I was told once about 6 months ago. So they might have to be involved. So if it's the J.J. Abrams movie, they can probably make without Secret Hideout. But the other movie, they might have to involve Secret Hideout.
Oh my God! Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how true that is, but that's what I was told about 6 months ago.
And the J.J. Abrams film would also be the not Kurtzman, excuse me, the Simon Kinberg film, right?
No, the Kinberg movie is the one that Secret Hideout would probably have to be involved in, because that's a prequel that I was told was going to be the launch of the or was going to finish with the launch of the Enterprise.
Okay.
It's supposed to be an origin story, and everyone thinks that means the Federation, but I was told it's actually the origin of the Enterprise.
Okay.
But that's the Kinberg, but that's Prime Universe.
And JJ would still be attached as a producer for that, though, right? Because he has to be.
Secret Hideout and Kurtzman will be acted as a producer. J.J. Abrams isn't attached as a producer for the Kinberg movie. The Kinberg movie is the other one. J.J. Abrams is attached to what might be Star Trek 4, but I'm told it's not going to happen. That's the Chris Pine, Kelvin timeline
that they've tried to do with Tarantino and half a dozen other people.
Well, going back, this is the the building. Did you say the building of the Enterprise? Because I thought that was the TV show, The Enterprise. But is there?
No, the Enterprise we know, the Enterprise we know and love, the Enterprise NCC 1701. The Enterprise TV show was the NX 1701, which was a fudge because they said it wasn't really the Enterprise because it was an NX. So yeah, we got to the launch of the NX Enterprise.
Yeah, after Kurtzman's done with this, I won't know what's happening on Star Trek anymore. I swear to God.
Well, the NX-01, sorry.
Sorry, just because I don't want to push back anymore on this one real quick because we missed these real quick. And I do want to say thank you. Obviously, earlier, this was a funny little comment, but way too dumb. Thank you for contributing. Michael Nemo just sent us a super chat just a few minutes ago, though. $5. Thank you. It must be a very odd existence to utterly hate a franchise and have so much power over it. Kurtzman, Moons, what karma?
It does seem to hate Star Trek. That's the thing.
It's so weird.
Kurtzman may need some couch time. I'm serious. He may need to find a nice, comfy couch with some sort of high-end Hollywood therapist and just. Yeah. Why do you hate Why do you hate B'Elanna? I mean, just start out there.
I don't know.
Just pick any random character.
He doesn't. I don't hate Star Trek. He Kurtzman wants to do Star Trek his own way, and then he doesn't particularly love it when anyone else does it differently. I've heard rumors as well that he hated Lower Decks, and he's been trying to kill Lower Decks from season 2.
And he wants to do a sitcom. Isn't that the thing that almost half inspires a sitcom? Exactly.
But Mike McMahon was the main man over at Lower Decks, and everyone and lots of Trekkies love Lower Decks. They think it's a love letter. A lot of Trekkies hate it because it's a silly comedy and it's not canon and blah blah. But a lot of things it's just a love letter to the next generation, which I love more than anything. But apparently it's Kurtzman that's killed it, and again we talked about this 2 weeks ago, but these people doing the review, that was one of the questions they put back to say, why are we cancelling Lower Decks? This show is really cheap to make and is very profitable. Why are we cancelling it? And it's just because it seems because Kurtzman's decided to, and one of the reasons seems to be is because he's not involved in it. He doesn't, but I really don't want that to be true. I really, really hope that's not true because it's so petty. It's true. I think there's probably shades of truth to it, but I can't. There'll be other reasons, surely.
This might be a topic for a whole new video, and I don't think we should jump into this can of worms right now because I'm about to open up a can of freaking worms. But this might be a topic for like another live stream another time or something. But just, Kurtzman almost seems a little bit like Leslie Headland in The Acolyte, and and so on and so forth with all these different series where I don't think these people hate the series that are coming in here to do. I think, like you said, he just wants to do it his own way. Leslie Headland wanted to do it her own way. I think fundamentally, those people don't come into these IPs with respect for them, though, and I think that's what hurts them in the long run. They want to do it their own way.
No, they think they can do it better. That's the thing. Somebody just asked who owns the studio space that Star Trek's made, and it's CBS Studios. Okay. It's paid for by Secret Hideout. Secret Hideout basically pay for the product to be made at CBS Studios, and then they recoup their money, and they have to Paramount payment. I guess they're confused. But yeah, it's CBS Studios.
Makes sense. It's the one that I guess Paramount still runs as their. It's almost their equivalent to Disney's ABC. They're not streaming channel. What am I looking for? Cable TV.
Well, if you can remember as well that Paramount have just shifted all of their production onto CBS Studios, which I don't quite understand the reasoning for, but it's apparently a cost-cutting exercise.
Oh, interesting.
So everything's going to be CBS Studios. Paramount Studios won't be producing any television anymore. It's all going to move to CBS Studios.
No respect. That's funny. But we do. Michael Nemo just sent us another super chat, so we have to jump in on here. Thank you again. I've not heard this. Whatever happened with Nicholas Meyer's involvement with Star Trek? Wasn't he a resource of some sort and then vanished?
A while ago. I can't, and I've struggled to sensibly talk about it because that was a while ago. I'll have to go away and have a check on that. Makes sense. I honestly cannot remember. But it was, they were. I do know what he's talking about, but it was a while ago.
Yeah, I'm not even really familiar with him because I still haven't really started my Star Trekking just yet. This week though, y'all come watch with me. This guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it really happened, but it was ages ago. I can't remember the details, but I can't intelligently talk about it. So.
The last I heard,
he's doing podcasts and stuff now. That's right.
Who, Meyer? Yeah, I mean he.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I know he wrote up.
Yeah, new Star Trek Cars series. I was so excited. I was like, it's a fucking audio book or audio podcast.
I mean, he wrote Undiscovered Country, I believe.
Yeah, he was involved previous with. I think he did some stuff for Voyager as well, didn't he, Nicholas Myers?
He wrote early episodes of Discovery that were rewritten.
Well, the rumor is that bloody Alex Kurtzman rewrote several things that were written. Somebody else wrote a couple of episodes as well, and then wouldn't have anything to do with them after that because I'm going to have to Google. I can't remember who it is now. They wrote 2 episodes of Disco. Kurtzman rewrote them, and then they refused to have anything else to do with Star Trek after that. And I cannot remember, but it was a well-respected writer. That might have been Nicholas Myers.
He was consulting producer for Discovery.
Yeah, and then he was only season 1, or was it season 2 as well? I don't think he was involved with that, was he?
Joey said Robert Meyer Burnett did a full reading of the script and got a phone call from Myers. Send us the link in here if you know which one, or send it in put it on our community chat in the most recent post in community, and we'll go check that out. And if anybody's here, go check out the most recent post from today, and it'll be there. Hopefully. Come on, Joey, we got.
Somebody just asked what happened to the Shuttlepod show. I don't know. It's merged into a different thing.
It's now the Decon Chamber, I believe.
Yeah, and I will message. I was getting quite good friends with the producer, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if there's a fallout because I've not heard from him for a while. But
Decon looks like it's just Kinnear and Trinian, is his last name.
I'll drop him a message and I'll see if I can find out what happened because I'd love to know Because it was him and his girlfriend was sort of producing it. She was the very pretty lady that sort of asked some of the questions in the thing at the end, and they've seemed to be completely out of it now, and it's just the guys from Enterprise in this decon chamber on a completely different YouTube channel. So I don't know, but I know they were struggling to sort of get it going, and the finances were, I think, maybe an issue. So
Laura's saying Connor and Dom left the shuttle pod show.
So there you go. So I'll message him and see if he wants to tell me what happened. So I don't know if there's a falling out, maybe, which would be a shame because the guy's a massive Trekkie.
They left it for Hollywood reasons. Is that what was given? Oh,
that sounds like a nice way of saying we fell out.
Fell out, or maybe they're working on a contract, and their contract said you are not allowed to start talking to people about this kind of stuff.
Well, they went straight to the decon chamber, though, didn't they? They're basically doing exactly the same format, just them two. But I tell you what, it's not as good. I preferred the shuttle pod show. And the decon chamber is, they talk about themselves a lot, more than they did before. I don't know. It's not as good.
Yeah, I saw one episode of it, and it totally feels more laid back. But the other one felt more produced and like it was an actual show that they're trying to they're not trying to just be another podcast per se. Where decon, it seems like a really fun thing, and hey, I'd love to do some stuff with them. If they ever want to do some stuff over here, y'all come say howdy. But
I really think
we had Mark on it live.
Of course,
we had Mark on it live. He was absolutely great. I don't want to ask him in a way because I think something must have happened and he's not going to want to tell me. So and I don't want to put him in a difficult position. Yeah. So but I've not. He used to message every so often, and I've not heard from him at all. As soon as this happened, so something happened, and he's obviously going to sort of move on.
Well, he was. I loved it because Mark would come in our Sundays chats all the time. He'd be in our chat. It'd be fun because he'd push back on a little bit of your Star Trek Discovery hate. Sometimes would be fun. He's like, they're still good to it, and it's like, all right.
Yeah. We did that on the live. We did the live. They're still good to it. No, there isn't.
He's like, I got you. I know what you're saying, but there's this good bit.
It's all hateful.
Bit. And you're just like Klingon singing and dancing. No, I'd love those.
Chaps, I'm afraid I've got to call it an evening because my dinner will now be burning. So I'm 5 minutes over.
Yeah, but you'll have to go too.
Yeah,
I got more.
We got stuff to do. I think.
Well, we're not going to go on until 2 hours. But Stormy, do you want to give everybody what you saw for the week before hopping out of here?
So it wasn't a lot. I finally because of bye Jamie, bye Jay,
time to pee.
Go pee. So I didn't watch a lot this week because of homework, but I did catch up on the Rings of Power, and it was excellent. I thought. Everybody that's a Loader fan or a Tolkien fan is just getting all sorts of just cupcake surprises. And I really do think that they are the Blue Wizards. They're not Gandalf. Yeah, because as we go on, there's more hints to Silmarillion, and there's more hints to the fall of Numenor. It's just the wrong age for Gandalf. I don't think that the unknown guy that fell from the sky is Gandalf. I think he's one of the original blue wizards that came to Middle Earth and then shuttled their ass off to the east. And one went bad. Tolkien had a lot of different variations of what happened to the blue wizards. One version is they both went bad. One version is they both went good. And one version is one went bad, one went good. And I think that's the world we're in. Anyway, Tolkien fans are absolutely out of their minds with the possibilities of the blue wizards because we haven't had anything coming new from the blue wizards since Tolkien died. So I'm really jazzed about that. I also saw the very last episode of The Grand Tour with Jeremy Clarkson, and it was a spinoff Jeremy Clarkson was an automotive commentator back on BBC with Top Gear that went.
Okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, he got fired, and the other two of his buddies, they went over to Amazon, and they started a show called The Grand Tour, and it's kind of evolved a little bit. But recently, the last episode of The Grand Tour ever has dropped, and I recommend Grand Tour because it's a lot of adventure, and it is a lot of just seeing other parts of the world, and it's funny as shit. So those are the things I did, plus occupational health and safety.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it wasn't fun at all. It just sucked. But I'm almost done with it, and I would not recommend taking 12 credit hours working a full-time job. Just don't do it. It is. I don't know what I was thinking, except I want to get it done. What all did you see?
I've caught up because I was out of town for a week, and I haven't caught up on everything I need to catch up in. There's probably another 8-9 movies I want to go see in theaters this week, plus the ones that are coming out. The things I did watch, I haven't completely caught up to Rings of Power. I'm one episode behind still, and I feel iffy with it because the writing is not great. I'll say that starting off, the writing's not great, but from the Tolkien standpoint, all the things we're seeing in there, it's beautiful. The thing that pisses me off about the writing, because ultimately I've learned that it's not going to be Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon level. I accept that.
It's a different thing. Silmarillion was a completely different book.
Totally different. I just don't like that it's shitty writing. Excuse my French there. Don't say the lines that these people are going to say 2,000 years in the future and all. They just keep repeating Lord of the Rings lines. Like, I get that, and I get the nostalgic aspect to it. These people are different people. It's a whole different time. Just say your own lines. It's okay with that. It feels
these are
lackadaisical from a writing standpoint.
Right. I think the lines that you're referencing are things that Tolkien was said through all three eras: the second age, and the first age.
Sure, but Galadriel jumping at a bunch of orcs, going "No shadow" or "You're the shadow" or whatever, versus saying that to an actual Istar kind of level threat is. They don't compute, and it feels like lackadaisical writing, or at least it comes off that way. And
that did come from Tolkien, and now those are, it was in the lexicon with the elves, and the elves
they're using his direct verbiage, which is fun. I just don't think they're using it in a proper way. It doesn't highlight that they're. It doesn't highlight their writing.
It's almost as if the writers are damned if they do, if damned if they don't. In these instances, they're trying to keep pure to Tolkien's writing, but if they change those phrases, that's like a trope in Elven world. Then there's going to be another bunch of people saying, "Well, what Tolkien didn't say that shit. Oh my fucking god, she said this other thing in this other book. It's published in this volume, Unfinished Tales, volume 29 million. So the writers are kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. Because repeating these things that are tropes throughout this world. I mean, Tom Bombadil is really, he's been around since the first.
Have you listened to that old Tom Bombadil song they've released?
I have not. I've seen it. I've seen it on here, but I never pressed the play.
It's Bear McCreary and I believe Rufus Wainwright, who did Hallelujah for Shrek and a couple other things like that. He's a big folk musician. Oh, really? So damn good.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, it's so damn good. It makes my little Tolkien heart happy.
You got to post Joey's thing. It's literary LARPing. Genius.
Yeah.
But anyway, if they are the Blue Wizards, man, I mean, oh my god.
That makes the most sense. Well, the second they're like, because I haven't completely caught up, but the second that was it, I forget who says that Ciarán Hinds' character is an Istar. He fell in as an Istar as well. But the second they announced that he was an Istar, not just some wizard dude out in the desert,
right.
You're like, okay, we're going blue here, aren't we? And it makes
sense.
Right,
because he's the evil, the dark wizard, and when they labeled him Istar, it's like, oh, he's got to be blue. There's no unless there's now if they start saying he's some other Istar except Radagast, Gandalf, and the rest of them, it's just. Now that's just you're just making shit up at that point, and then there's somebody's going to burn Amazon to the ground. But Yeah, so all signs are pointing toward the missing blue wizards, and that is just the froth from Tolkien fans is thick and frothy. It's very frothy froth.
Yeah. Well, so caught up, but not completely caught up to that. Still got one episode left. The Penguin frickin' show. That first episode is awesome. It is absolutely amazing.
It's on my list of shit to do when I finish this semester.
It's been kind of heralded as Sopranos for Gotham, and yep, that suffices. It totally suffices. It's perfect in that kind of aspect. And I was not a fan of the Batman. I actually think the Batman is Matt Reeves' worst written film, and I did not enjoy it.
I mean, it was okay. You know, I think Patterson's performance was good.
It was all right.
You know? But I don't think Patterson had a lot to work with.
No,
I just don't feel it's just. I want to go back and quote something Sci-Fi Quest said. At least we still get into the Clarkson's Farm. If you've not seen Clarkson's Farm on Amazon, it was like it's the same guy that was in Top Gear and Grand Tour. He gets a farm, and I thought, man, that's scraping the bottom of the barrel. I was totally wrong, totally in error. It is really good. And I think we've got, is there 2 or 3 seasons up now on Amazon? I've lost track. But yeah, Clarkson's Farm is heartwarming, which is odd to say about anything Clarkson. And the funniest thing was when he's in the mushroom bunker, and the mushroom went bad, and he's vomiting in his mask, and it was just, I know it's horrible. I know it's, but it was funny as shit. It was horrible. So anyway,
yesterday was National Mushroom Day, by the way, or 2 days ago. Excuse me, 9/20.
The thing I really like about Clarkson's Farm is it shows how damn hard it is to be a farmer. I mean, damn hard to be a farmer. Even if you got all this money, all this fame, it is damn hard to be a farmer.
Way too dumb. Thank you again for your super chat. What is WDTOWL? The Old West Library. West Dakota. I don't know. I'm trying to just come up with words now. World denomination, Tuesdays only with Larry. I don't know. I'm not good with these acronyms if they're just like all over the place. WD. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out mentally. Real quick, though, Penguin, Agatha, all along, those first 2 episodes were better than I expected. I don't think they were amazing, but I think they were much better than I expected, and they were pretty damn good, and they were definitely solid. Not amazing. I'll give it that, but solid plus a little bit, I'd say. I watched Transformers 1 in theaters, and that ain't no kids movie, and it's totally a kids movie at the same time. It's so damn good. Transformers 1 is something that I think everybody should see. I don't know if it or the original Transformers film is the best, quote unquote, in my opinion, just yet. I might have to watch this one again, but it very well may overtake that first Transformers. And what else? Oh, I did go see the conservative Borat movie, essentially, is what it's being called, the Am I Racist? And it was funny. It was funny, and I think it does ask pertinent questions in our society and why we're silly as can be on certain things, and and ask questions that we should delve into. And I would like to see more documentaries take a not a farcical approach, but a satirical approach. I think documentaries taking a satirical approach allows that topic to kind of be digested by its audience a lot better, and I think that's the way to approach it.
That's Walking Dead.
I was like, what is this? What is TOWL then? The Walking Dead. TWD is the Walking Dead. TWD. What is the Owl? The Other World. The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah. While you're working on that, I was going to say that I'm a big fan of Michael Moore, and one of the things, and he donated tons of money to Books for Soldiers, bless him. But he always said that, he wants to make his movies with humor because humor is the way you change people's minds. If you come at it with just facts and figures and you don't blend it into a story, and everybody has these preconceptions of like, what's the one? Fahrenheit 9/11? No, Bowling for Columbine. Everybody thought, Bowling for Columbine is he's going to come on the screen and talk down about guns and he's going to try to, enforce gun laws. And at the end of the film, it's not all the ones who live, right?
I was like, what is it? But no, I think the satirical approach, it's the best way to do it. It allows us to digest things.
And at the end of the film, Moore's thesis is it's not the guns, it's us, because he compares us with Canadians. Canadians have just as much guns as we do per capita, but they don't have the fear that's in their media. Here we have, it's we're afraid of everything. The news gins up everything, makes us afraid of everything. And
our news is
not so much
as can be. Yeah.
And fear really brings out the worst in people. And so that was his. Everyone thinks it's one thing, but it really is another. Anyway, Michael Moore really ponied up a lot of money for Books for Soldiers out of his own pocket. He wasn't some corporate thing. We arranged to get any soldier in the world that wanted a Michael Moore book or movie. We got it to them back during the War on Terror. Great guy. So Tom Clancy also did a wonderful job. Brad Thor out of Chicago, amazing writer, really helped us out. So did Neil Gaiman. Anyway, that was always use humor to try to change people's minds. Become the Mark Twain. Don't be the op-ed columnist for the New York Times. Be the Mark Twain.
Yeah, I agree. The ones who live, though, I don't even. Which one is that?
It's the one where the kids that from The Walking Dead, like Carl's younger sister. It's their world, the next generation that grew up in this whole world with the zombies. They know nothing of the time before.
Okay, so this is Judith and everybody else.
Right. Yeah. I think Judith is maybe the main character.
Okay, miniseries. I see. I still need to finish. I stopped after The Walking Dead season 8, middle of season 8. The second they killed a certain son of a certain protagonist, maybe even the main protagonist, I was like, oh, so we don't really care about our actors or the actual story from the comics, which I was a fan of the comics. I love Robert Kirkman as a comic writer. So I've just been pissed off at Walking Dead ever since then. I haven't ever jumped back in, and I probably should because there's a bunch of good stuff. But
I've watched. There's so much Walking Dead I haven't. I'm like 2 seasons behind on The Walking Dead. I think. I want to start watching when Rick comes back and that whole story. I watched the first season of Daryl. Was somehow he was. Or was it in Pennsylvania? He got knocked out and put in a boat, and somehow he woke up in France.
Oh, that's right. It's in Europe.
Yeah, and I'm like,
that's crazy,
dude. What?
Norman Reedus wanted a European vacation, and the writer said, "All right, let's do it."
Well, he got it. I mean, it was still a good story, but it's like, how the fuck did you go from
Because wasn't that originally going to be Daryl and Carol or Carol and Daryl or something, and then Melissa?
It was but it turned out. Yeah. I think Carol went off and did something else. Anyway, Those are great characters. But I have certainly got to go. I've got to fly the coop here. I'm very sorry.
Let's do it. The last two things we'll say before we get out of here is happy 85th anniversary to old Batman. We talked about him earlier. Thankfully, that Penguin show is bringing us some great Gotham right now. It's good. But you know what day it is today, don't you, Stormy?
Equinox.
It isn't. It is the autumnal equinox. Is I think how you say it.
Yeah, it's autumn equinox. Yeah.
There we go. but it's also Hobbit Day. It's Bilbo Baggins' birthday.
That's right. That's right. He was born on equinox. That's right. Okay.
So happy Hobbit Day, everybody.
And also, World of War, excuse me, World of Warcraft is coming up on their 20th anniversary next month.
Oh, no way.
Month after November this year. Lots of anniversaries going on.
Yes, and before we jump out of here, I believe this Wednesday is our Stargate Outpost episode number 2. So we're going to do some stuff there. It should be Jamie and I on Wednesday. We will keep you posted on exactly how that's going to turn out. I know we might get Carrie on if she's available. I don't know if I've seen Carrie in the chat today. That'll be fun if we do. If not, it'll just be Jay and I talking Stargate, and we'll be hanging out. But, we'll see y'all. We love y'all. And if you come by Wednesday, you got to come by Friday because last Friday we were going to try to do a Radical Wasteland podcast, but I was feeling a little sick. Chaz was also feeling a little sick, and Greg had a migraine. And Jay just got over a migraine. We've all been sick. You're the healthy one right now, so
there's something wrong with the world if I'm the healthy one. Hey, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Oh yes, definitely, y'all. This man he's got 73 doctorates, and he's just not going to tell you about it.
No, I'm autistic, and I get bored very easily.
And ended up grabbing 73 doctorates in the meantime. But we love y'all. We'll see y'all Wednesday and Friday. Stargate Outpost podcast. Friday for Radical Wasteland podcast with Greg and I. Hopefully Chaz and anybody else from the team that can join. I believe keep an eye out for us over on Axtonar After Dark. We've been hanging out and talking with Axtonar a little bit, and he wants us to come join his After Dark shows every now and then. So if we have time this week, we shall. I was out of town last week, so was not able to. But yeah, we got a few things going out. Got a little, not necessarily collaborations, but we're gonna go hang out with some other folk that we all like to watch and enjoy. Talking about some cool Star Trek stuff, of course. And yeah, thank y'all. We love the hell out of y'all, and we will see you soon. And expect some cool little clips from this stream. We might do a little extra videos, kind of based off of those clips, and add our reactions to certain things, so on and so forth. So keep an eye out for that. We love the hell out of y'all, and don't forget to. All that good stuff. Gotta love those student loans. Richard Branson pays now, huh?
There's no student loans in my world. That's just good. No.
Well, adios, y'all. Again,
y'all be good.
Great damn week, and go celebrate Hobbit Day. Go have second breakfast.
Go have a second breakfast.
Or it's 11sies now. It's 10:55 over here, so I'm gonna have to go have me some 11sies.
Yeah, I'm ready for lunch.
There you go. Lunch, luncheon, supper, and then dinner. I can name all 7. It's bad. But anyway. See y'all.
Bye.